Roger, go for deploy.
Alrighty, listeners, how are you? So, today our show is with a man named Mike Dowd. Mike is pretty well infamous for being the most corrupt cop in New York City / American history. Really interesting guy. He was a police officer in the 7-5 Precinct in Brooklyn between 1981 to 1992. And he got up to all kinds of mischief in that time. He stole cash, stole drugs, sold drugs. The last thing that went down was some sort of extortion and what was it? Kidnapping charge. And so he went to prison for 12 years, and we got to sit down with him and let him tell his story. Jack actually interviewed him with me. What did you think, Jack, of Mike?
Very, very interesting character. Obviously has a lot to say because he's trying to promote his image in a positive way, as not for what the documentary shows him about. By the way, the documentary is a very good watch if you do want to watch it. It's called The 7-5, all spelt out, SEVENFIVE. But yeah, just like crazy to think about the stuff that he actually got to do and got away with for some point.
It was good though. It was good. It was very funny. Me and Jack went to interview Mike, and it was Vegas. Like in Vegas in his hotel. It was like we were long lost friends. It's funny. He's obviously done some terrible things. He's obviously a disgraced police officer. He's screwed a lot of people over in his time. But he couldn't have been more of an endearing kind of guy. It was a real strange kind of scenario. We ended up going out to lunch afterwards because we bought Mike lunch for, taking some time out of his day. And,
Definitely. He's a legend.
Yeah.
Have a listen.
All right. So we have sponsors today, guys. So they are Audible. If you want to check out Audible is an audiobook warehouse that's got 250,000 tracks, 250,000 books, I should say. And it is amazing. So if you want to try it out for a free 30-day trial and get one free audiobook, all you got to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/ADVF radio. Punch that in. You'll get yourself a free trial. You can pick out any book you like. It's a really good service, guys. You can basically take in information, learn, be entertained all while you're driving, mowing the lawn, cooking dinner, whatever. Just try and get some extra time in the day and, get some information in. And we are also brought to you by Adventure Fit Travel. So if you want to come on our Everest Base Camp trip, guys, we are running that in September till October. That's the trip that we're currently promoting most on here. It's an amazing trip. Just a stunning 15-day walk through the Everest region, through the Khumbu region, culminating with Everest Base Camp and Kalabatar. So you climb Kalabatar, which is a little hill, really. It's not a mountain, it's a hill next to Everest, and you can kind of see Everest. You feel like you're looking eye to eye with it. You're actually not. You're about 3 kilometers lower. But it's a great experience, and you'll have a ball. So if you want to check that out, head to www.adventurefittravel.com. We've got a couple other trips listed on the site there. Check it out. You won't regret it. And here's the show.
New York is in the grips of a crime wave.
It was like the heyday of crack.
It was violent, man.
Homicides, robberies, rapes. It was a war zone.
East New York, Brooklyn, 7-5 Precinct, the deadliest precinct in the country. Who did I burn to get put here? It would scare Clint Eastwood.
When I first went to the precinct, I hear about this guy, Mike Dowd.
Mikey's just crazy.
Michael Dowd was a crook who ended up wearing a cop's uniform.
He was a criminal.
Once in a generation, corrupt cop.
I consider myself both a cop and a gangster.
Forget about Beverly Hills and all that other stuff. The ghetto is one of the richest neighborhoods there is.
Maybe there's some way we can make money from this.
La Compañía. It's a very serious Dominican gang.
$24,000 in our hands to talk.
Mike was of rain. Say no problem.
In his business, if you mess up, you got killed.
I'm a New York City cop. I'm taking a risk of going to jail for a long period of time, and you're going to short me a dime?
His word against mine. And I'm a cop.
I'd break a neck if your neck needs breaking.
I had 3 machines counting money, and it's still not enough time.
Everybody on the floor now!
There's no becoming a cop again.
You're going to have me killed.
We knew we were up against a really tough crew.
A month ago, I was a regular cop, and now I'm a criminal.
That's what they taught us in the police academy.
Got a guy in the front, a guy in the back, got an entry team.
You felt like you were God.
The normal person that's doing wrong is going to have a fear of being caught.
I never had a fear about getting busted
Michael Dowd did not have any fear.
because the cops around me would never give me up.
Alrighty, guys. So, welcome to Adventure Beat Radio. This is a different show to normal. Tommy's not with us today. I've got my little brother Jack.
Hey.
And we're sitting here with the Mike Dowd. So, Mike is a former police officer.
Good morning.
Good morning, yeah. Mike's a former police officer from the 7-5 Precinct. Served some time in prison. We're going to go through his story, where he's at now, and he's gonna tell us all about it. So, Mike, welcome to the show, firstly.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. You guys taking a trip out to Las Vegas to actually sit down and interview me. Yeah,
it's great.
It's exciting.
So why don't you tell us, firstly, a little bit about yourself, Mike, and your background? What was your upbringing like?
Okay, so I'm one of 7 siblings in an Irish-American Catholic family, and my dad was a firefighter, and I have several brothers that were firefighters and police officers, and somewhere along the way in the 80s, I became a police officer, trying to get married, so I needed a job, and that was the first job. You know, when you come from that line of, I didn't have a doctor in my family, so I had a firefighter in my family, so civil service was the life that we always knew. I had some comfortability around it, so I took all the exams for the city, and the first one to call me was the police department, and I ended up being a police officer, which turned out to be, I was very excited to be one. I didn't initially want to be, but as I entered the police force, I became very excited to be a police officer.
So you were a police officer, obviously through one of the most tumultuous times in New York City history. So,
Sure.
you would say. So, what was it like? When did you actually start on the beat? Was it the 80s or was it a little earlier?
So I graduated police academy in 1982 in summer. So it might have been June or something, and so I'm walking down the street after graduation. Funny story. And I'm with my dad, who's a retired firefighter, and I think my mom was with me as well. And they're proud. They got this young 21-year-old buck who's now a New York City cop. You know, I'm in uniform. I walked out of the Madison Square Garden. I'm walking down 34th Street, heading towards 5th Avenue. And some woman says, "Officer, officer, officer." And I'm looking around, and I'm looking around. This woman's looking for an officer. And my father goes, "Mike, I think she's talking to you." Oh, my God. Here I am in full uniform, full dress blues from graduating from the police academy. I got my gun on my hip for the first time, and someone calling for an officer.
You're looking around for a cop.
I'm looking for the cop. Who's the cop? My dad says, "It's you." So that was my first real live experience of being a New York City cop and not knowing what the hell I was doing after graduating the academy. So, yeah. So that was the 80s, and then I ended up in some training programs, street training, and then I ended up in East New York, Brooklyn.
Okay. So East New York, Brooklyn, that was a couple of years into being a police officer? That was mid-80s then? Or?
Well, I would say I landed in the 75th Precinct in 1983 in June. I think it was June 13th. So after the academy, a year and a half of training combined between the academy and what they call NSU, Neighborhood Stabilization Unit, which was a training program, which we graduated 3,600 police officers graduated that day that I graduated. So they had a massive job of trying to train 3,600 street cops now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a trained cadet. Now you're on the street. So, you know, some guys fall through the cracks along the way. And but you learn the job ground up, from the street up now.
Yep.
You know, it's different than the book, like anything else.
For sure.
So I ended up in East New York, Brooklyn, and I remember driving down Sutter Avenue. I tell the story to others, and you may have heard it before, and I'll just say it for your audience. It's about 6:30 in the morning. I'm driving down Sutter Avenue, heading towards Essex Street, which is where the precinct is located. And You can't make this up. Elvis in the Ghetto is on. And a young man cries
In the ghetto.
And I'm driving. This is you can't. This is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
It's just and like
Couldn't have written it.
Yeah, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. I'm like tears running down the sides of my eyes. I don't know if I'm crying for the kid who just got shot, or for me that I'm going into this fucking
War zone.
bastardized neighborhood that I know nothing about. But I know you don't want to be there if you don't have to.
Yep.
And there they are playing dice at 6:30 in the morning. I know they just didn't start the game. So they're out in the corner throwing dice up against the wall, which would become known as Eugene's Bodega, which would be a very friendly place to me in the years to come. And I'm like, I should have stayed in college. My mother was right.
I should have been a fiery.
I should have stayed in college. Sorry, Ma. What do I do now, So, P.S., that was my introduction to East New York, and it just got worse.
Yeah.
It got worse, and the time was the 80s, and crack hadn't even been discovered yet.
So when was the crack explosion, they say?
So how do we come across this idea of crack? So I'm a patrolman in East New York, and it's the ghetto. You can't mince words when it comes to it. It was just poverty stricken. It was drug laden, but it wasn't as violent as it will become. Mm-hmm. Because now we're talking about 65, 70 murders a year. Not so bad for a ghetto precinct, and just put it out there.
Yep.
And then 84, 85, we start finding this stuff in plastic vials, like little containers, and we didn't know what the fuck it was. No one told us anything. They didn't even know what it was themselves.
Weren't ready for it.
The people, in charge of the world. And we're just throwing it out. What the fuck is it? Because we didn't know what it was, like soap.
Yeah.
And we've come to find out that one of my partners brought it home one day, and he came back with $400. He said, this stuff is fucking drugs, and it's worth a lot of money. Well, so welcome to the world of money now, right? Never mind the world of fuck. Welcome to the world of money. And so stuff we were throwing out for the last 3-4 months because we didn't know what it was turned out to be a very profitable industry. Mm-hmm. And so sort of was like it took off from there. I mean, there was a couple of things prior to that, which I'm sure if people follow the story, they will know. But, that's cutting right to the chase of the crack era.
Yeah. So what did it feel like for you, though? So you're still probably 23 or 4-year-old kid or something at this stage. You graduated, right. You're 2 or 3 years in.
Right.
And so when the crack explosion hit and everything went bananas in New York City, what was the murder rate like then? You said 60, 70 per year in 82, 83 or whatever.
It goes to like 85, 90 a year in the same location, which is like a 30% increase in murders just in that one location.
Which is a big spike.
30% increase. And, if it's your house, it's huge, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so it was a violent location, and now it's become 30% more violent, and then maybe more. Half the murders they don't even. I don't know. They turn suicide. It's a suicide because they can't figure out what happened.
Yeah.
I'm just half kidding, but the fact is, the gun is next to him, so he killed himself. Meanwhile, there's bloody footprints running away.
Too much. Just put in the too hard basket.
It's just too much. That's hard to figure out. We'll never find the guy anyway, so make it a suicide.
So how were you like day to day walking through the streets? Did you always feel like you were under pressure? Did you always feel like you were at risk? Did you feel like when it all started to kick off, or when you're dealing with these?
So initially, when it started to become more and more violent, you just felt like okay. So I would give you the typical day. It's July. It's 92 degrees, and you can feel it. Like you're driving into the ghetto, and you just feel it. It's going to be a busy day. Like you have this sense. Yeah. You just become part of the fabric of the. It's like a breath. You take a breath, and you're like, that was a fresh breath of, and there's no breath of fresh air coming or going. Right. And you just feel.
It's heavy vibe.
You feel heavy, and you go, this is going to be one of those nights, and you just. I mean, you could say that any night in the ghetto, especially in the summer, because people are out later, they drink later, they party later, and violence just becomes part of the fabric of that environment. Whether it's white, black, Hispanic, it doesn't really necessarily matter racially. It just matters that it's the community, and it's an intensity. And there's no other way to describe it. You just feel it. Yeah. Like when you put your shirt on that says NYPD on it, it sticks to you that day. And it's more like thank God I got this shirt on because it gives you a little protection.
Yeah.
You know,
rather than just a regular person
just
walking
a
down the street,
guy walking down
which
the
you
street.
just don't want to be doing.
You don't want to be doing.
Yeah,
you got
right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because we're obviously not. Me and Jack grew up in a small beach town in Australia. You know, this is all new to us.
Same thing.
We've been staying in the yeah.
It's the same thing. He's New York.
Pretty much
right
together.
Right near the beach. Just you don't want to go on that beach.
That's the one
if you
thing
dive in
that's
the
the
water
same.
there, you would hit a car. Windshield. What the?
So what about so what's like, because it's all new to us. You know, we want to hear real stories. Like what's an example of something that the first time that you thought, oh fuck, this is I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't. What's something that the first time your eyes were open and like fuck, I can't. Because we saw last night, me and Jack, we're staying downtown, and the Uber driver that picked us up said, fuck, what are you guys doing staying down here?
You should not be here, that's what he said.
Yeah, you should not be. We were looking out the window and we were seeing crack deals, we were seeing like lots of, because we're not used to that, you know? It was, you can, anyway, so Mike's making funny faces behind the scenes.
Where's mine? The money, not the crack.
But like, when was it for you that you was there any time where you felt like, I don't want to be here, this is too much for me, and it was really overwhelming, or?
So I've never been asked that question. I've asked 1,400 questions.
There you go. Welcome to Event Fit Radio. The big questions.
The big question. Is there any time I felt like I didn't want to be here, or?
Oh no! Like, what was did you feel? Was there any time where you felt out of depth and you felt like the first time that you saw something, whether it was like a drug deal or like
So I'll give you a story. I've said it maybe once. So I'm doing a midnight shift with my partner Sal. I'll leave his name out. Mm-hmm. And we're driving down Fulton Street. It's under the L, which is eerie. If you've ever been under an L elevated train station,
yep.
You know, at night, it's dingy, it's dark, there's pigeon shit everywhere. The paint's falling off the side of the...
Fucking pigeons.
Damn pigeons. It smells. It's hot.
Pigs of the sky.
It's dark. And there's a guy, we see a guy with a tire iron in his hand, and they sort of see us and they start walking away. And I go to my partner, I go, dude, these guys are stripping cars, whatever they're doing. You know, we're police officers. We're supposed to, like, check people. Right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Tire iron, middle of the night. It's 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Whatever. Leave him alone. Okay, we leave him alone. So we go down about 3 or 4 blocks, and I said, you know what? I'm going to turn around. He's a lazy prick, and he doesn't want to do anything. But I'm a young buck. He's like 4 or 5 years older. I want to check these guys out.
Yeah.
So I do a U-turn. I go back, and I pass this Cleveland and Fulton. And there's a guy laying in the fucking street with a fucking hole in his head and blood pouring out the fucking side of his head. Right in front of we call it a Cuchifrito place, which is a Spanish eatery that has like no hours. They just open when they want and they close when they want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they're off, they're waving us down. Okay, so his name is Jesus.
Yep, Jesus.
Jesus is dead in the street. Right. So I look at the owner and I go, who did it? The guy with the tire iron? Yes! The guys with the tire iron that I was about to stop 2 blocks ago, but I went past and turned back around. Because the guy was being a good Samaritan. Jesus. He was stopping them because they were messing with cars in his neighborhood with the tire iron. They're like, dude, what are you doing around here? You know, this is our neighborhood. Don't be doing this, da-da-da. Guy fucking shoots him in the head, takes off running, drops the tire iron. So I go, did the guy have a tire iron? And sure enough, they go, yeah, it's right over there. I couldn't see. It's dark. And it's late at night. And there it is. So I'm like, so, of course, at the moment, you just respond and react. You call for backup. You want to search the neighborhood, get a crime scene established, all the things you have to do as formally. And then I thought about it later on, like this was it. Fuck. This was, I could have been me.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm happy that Sal told me not to stop this guy. But maybe he would have reacted different if I was a cop. He would have just maybe bolted or threw the gun down and ran. Or I might have been in a shootout my first week in East New York. So that's when I realized the magnitude. Like, that was my first homicide that I was like directly involved with. Now, I had been involved with murders, but not as the first responding officer and stuff of that nature. And so it's a very different feeling. Like, it's for real.
Yeah, for sure.
It is for fucking real, and I'm there. So I'm like, wow, it's happening. So it's on. Now game on.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, this isn't mucking around anymore.
Do you sink or you swim here?
Fight or flight.
What do you do? You gotta respond. So of course, some of your training kicks in, and then your nervous energy kicks in as a human being, as a survivalist, like you guys. must know that from jumping off of planes and in rivers and shit.
Yeah,
yeah. I got
www.adventuretravel.com. Jumping out of planes, rivers and shit.
I mean, you know how to survive, right?
Yeah.
Whoa, wait a minute. But so your survival instincts kick in, and so it was an interesting thing. And we ended up catching the people some point somewhere. I don't remember all the details, but it was like, so it hit home. Like, this is for real,
for sure. So what about like so going through such heavy times day to day and just being, you got to look after each other, you got to have each other's back. What's the partner relationship within the police force? Like brothers?
Well, I mean, better than brothers. I mean,
better than brothers.
This is like a wife that you don't fuck. That's just the way it is. He's like your. I have more love for him than my brother.
Yeah.
Because my brother, I see him on holidays and birthdays, and
that's powerful.
Right, and this guy I see 8.5 hours a day in my shift, and then either we commute together and drive home together, and then if we do the 4 to 12, it turns into a 4 to 4, right? Because you go out and knock back a half a dozen or 2 or 3, whatever you get, and then so by the time you get home at 5 in the morning, you now spent 16 hours with this guy, and so. The bond is inseparable.
Yeah. So you had
for the most part.
So you had a relationship with your partners. You had Chicky originally. Chicky was your partner.
See, everybody thinks that from the film. But but the reality is, Chicky and I never actually were partners. We worked a couple of shifts together, but we worked like adjoining. We were adjoining for several years.
Gotcha.
So like, I may have had a partner that was, let's say, Tony, and then 6 months later it was Billy. But Chicky was always the guy in the other car. Yeah. Chicky and I could never really work in the same car together because we're both like type A personalities, and
no yin and yang.
Yeah, you need a little yin and yang, and someone that's going to allow you to take a step ahead, or yet he's always got your back. Whereas with Chicky and I, we'd probably butt heads a little. Yeah, because he's a headstrong guy, and I'm a little bit a headstrong guy.
You're a big personality. Let's say you're a big personality.
Characteristic, charisma. Chicky and I would have went around and around, and our relationship might have not been as good as it was, but in the end, he's probably the one that between him and Walter, probably had my heart the most. Was, in the end, and overall, because Chicky I always loved my whole life. Of course, I meet this guy Kenny in the middle, who I had a love for, but it's just things morph, things change.
Yes. Okay. So, what's the when did you go from? So you've told us about you've entered the force. You want to impress. You're that young kid. You want to do things by the book. You want to lock up as many criminals as possible. And then obviously we're going to go into the other side of your story. We've only got an hour, so we're going to probably move on to what happened midway through your police time, and that was when you started to see this never give up on another cop, let a few things slide, this kind of relationship, which was the unspoken relationship between police. Like, how did that all come about? When did that become revealed to you?
Okay, so there's several steps in every process, right? So when I was in the academy, I was asked to cover for people in the academy. Mm-hmm. So while uncomfortable in doing so, I wanted to be one of the boys. So I started actually in the police academy protect people that maybe did something not necessarily called criminal conduct, just wrong.
Outside of the book a little bit.
Yeah, and really you're being instructed all along while you're being taught the right way. Technically, even your instructors are telling you, remember, always have your partner's back. Remember, always have your partner's back. Mm-hmm. You might say, make sure you do this, but always have your partner's back. It's okay. So that was the culture, and that's the way it was. And in many ways, it should be that way, so long as your partner has your back by that, and we can get into it in many different ways. If he's a good guy, he's not going to put you in a bad situation, right? Mm-hmm. Think about it. Like, this is one of the things I speak about when I do speaking engagements.
Yep.
For example, I'll sort of segue here. Like, okay, so back in the 80s, you can do anything you fucking wanted, okay? As long as your partner said it didn't happen that way, it happened the way he said it, you're good. You're golden.
Yep.
So today, things are different. We got cameras everywhere, and more accountability is here, which is fine. Mm-hmm. So the fact is, you don't want to... You as a police officer, if you really love your partner, which is what you should do, you should never put him in that situation to have to cover for a lie.
Yeah.
So... And to me, there needs to be some changes in the policing functionality and the way people approach policing.
Yeah.
And that's a whole new dynamics. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that these individuals that you are loved as your partner, and you go to their weddings, you go to their christenings for their children, and you marry off their daughters with them. These guys who you got their back and they got yours, you shouldn't be taking risks like I did to threaten their family.
Yeah.
Because whose back do you really have?
Yeah, that's right. You kind of you're forcing them to have your back. Like, hey, I'm doing this.
And you said you love me. You got my back.
You're coming with me. You're coming with me.
And what you're really saying is, I don't care enough about your family.
Yeah.
So this is what I've learned at 55.
Yeah.
As I speak today. When I was 23 and 25 and 28, I didn't think of those things. So fast forward 30 years later, and I'm speaking at universities and to police offices, police organizations and stuff. Those are the things I stress upon now. But the reality was back then, all I saw was to get what you got to get, and make sure you got my back while I'm getting it.
Yep, for sure. So how much of that do you think is still going on in the police force these days though? Like we'll touch back on go back on your story, but like is there a lot of this?
So let's not be remiss here and undervalue the fact of what just happened in the last 24 hours in Dallas.
Yep.
And then of course the 2 civilian shootings that took place prior to allegedly spark the shootings in Dallas. Mm-hmm. So I have to weigh in on it briefly. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's fucking tragedy. All killings are tragic,
100%.
It's just and I can't express enough how unfortunate that being a police officer that I was, and I still am through me, I'm a police officer, but I know both sides of this game. Call it a game, whatever you want to call it, this life that we live. The first thing people want to do is when they see a police officer shoot somebody is look at the color of the individual, okay? Cops don't see color, they see crime, okay? Now, how they respond to it may be based upon certain perceived prejudices or not. And at the same time, it may be just an unfortunate incident. But what happens is people, for their own benefit, turn it into a racial divide rather than a fucking mistake. How about it's a mistake? Now, people are going to say, well, because it's black, it's white. Listen, cops don't take you down and arrest you because you're black or white or Asian or Hispanic or Australian. They take you down because you committed a crime. Now, the way they go about it, maybe because inherently, and this could throw out a prejudicial statement. I don't mean it to be. Maybe because more inherently, the physical confrontation with an African American, called black or Hispanic, can be much more an aggressive country because the propensity in their community is initially given to protect themselves from the police. Yeah. So their initial approach to the police is in a defensive manner. So the police have to overcome that with overwhelming force. I mean, here I'm getting into such deep analogies here.
Can I? Do you think that there's with the and I don't really want to touch on stuff that I don't know too much about either. But but the fact with the Black Lives Matter and with this feminist movements and so forth, these things that garner so much steam these days. Do you think that it's a negative? Like it's just a negative revolving spiral that will just build because there's so much. If we took away all the negative connotations and all the Black Lives Matter and we just treated each other as people, and it wasn't because it's the media and that builds that up in these.
Right, so you're a pretty smart guy.
Well, first time I've been told that. Thank you, Mike Dowd. You can come on the podcast anytime.
Thank you, sir. I get our own here. No, so the point is, look, I'm the first person, like I saw a couple of things happen in the police world in the last year and a half that I'm ashamed. And a guy who fucking robbed drug dealers at gunpoint. Yeah. I'm ashamed to say that the reality is that certainly perception is bad. Yeah. What we don't know, you and I or anybody else in the world, until they know all of the facts leading up to and beyond what happened, no one ever knows. Yeah. So the presumption of innocence is never given to a cop if it can gain ratings on a TV news program, and look, I'm not here to defend police. I'm here to defend society, because as a societal person, you want your police officers. They're the only thing that's keeping the finger in the dike when the water's about to blow out. And believe me when I tell you that, and we're going to see a lot of it in the next year or so. I pray to God that everybody takes a step back and checks themselves before they quote unquote wreck themselves. Because let me tell you something. If I was a police officer today, You think what I did in the 80s was bad? It's on.
What do you mean by that?
It's on. Don't cross me now. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to waste one iota of thought in the fact that it's either you or me. Mm-hmm. See, back then, even in the 80s, yeah, I took your money. I took your drugs. I let you go home. Mm. Today, if I think that you're a threat to me, you may be dead before the thought even finishes my brain, because I'm not going to take that risk of not going home. Mm-hmm. And I'm just keeping it real, and I hope it doesn't happen, but I sense it.
Yeah.
Because when you start lining up cops and shooting at them, that's a different game.
Yeah.
And I'm not. So this is like the subject has turned into something else.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
but it's what's happening now.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's current and it's intense. And I like to be the voice of reason, because I know both approaches to
you're
this.
Professional. You've been in both. You know.
And yet at the
you're not
same
better than anyone.
time, I feel the intensity right now, because. Don't ever forget, once you're a cop, you're always a cop, essentially. Mm-hmm. Even though cops say you're a piece of shit, Dowd, you disparage the badge. Look, we get that, okay? Mm-hmm. Get beyond that and grow up, and let's be human beings and have a dialogue from my perspective and yours, whoever you are, whether you're a good cop, good civilian, bad civilian. Let's just have a dialogue in the world. And I've been keeping up the rest of this stuff because I'm getting asked to do a lot of shows now about this matter that's going on, and it's very, very entrenched in my thought process as we go through my life story, which is really nothing to do with this entire episode that's taking place today. Back then in the 80s, it was the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
But I sense that they're trying to fight to get it back to that way so the lawlessness can sort of take over, which there's a lot of reasons for it, and I don't want to get into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty incredible the pressure that cops actually have. The split-second instinct, and there's obviously a cop has always got his hand next to his revolver, and that's not because it's the cops being aggressive. That's because it's a split second, and the cop can be dead.
The cop does that for his own protection. His gun is his worst weapon against himself. Mm-hmm. Remember that.
Yeah.
The cop's biggest fear is not you; it's you getting his gun. That's his number one fear.
Yep.
Because his gun works.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a gun. It's a known gun.
It's a real gun.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, the whole we could do probably.
Yeah, that's another whole segment of another.
Yeah, that's right.
Hour and a half podcast and so on. I apologize for going off on it, but
no,
it's current, and
100%.
And people that hear us speak must know that we know the currents. Events.
Yeah, that's right. And you've been there, so people want to hear from people like yourself. Anyway, so you've gone through. You've realised you've got this never give up on another cop. You've seen that there's some sly stuff going on. When did it change for you? When did you become... I'm not going to say become a criminal. I'm going to say when did you do your first...
Rogue. Let's use rogue.
When did you become a rogue? When was your first big... when was your first crime?
Well, I mean, crime. What's a crime? If you're in a uniform being paid by the city, if you take 10 minutes off, you've committed a crime.
Yeah, that's right.
And people go, but that's not a crime. But yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
All right.
When did you
get
start
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was banging a chick in uniform. Just say it. That's a crime. Why? Because you've now taken time away from the city when you're being paid. It's a misdemeanor.
Is she in uniform?
A couple different ones. Depends which one.
A nurse's uniform.
No, this one was in a shotgun tower. The other one was in the back of the patrol car. What the other one is?
Shouldn't be a crime, by the way.
No,
shouldn't be a crime.
I'm getting paid to get laid, right? The good cop never goes cold, hungry, or wet. Ever hear that saying?
No, I've never heard that one.
Okay, well that's what they teach in the academy.
So but in all seriousness though, when did you commit your first crime and like?
Okay, so let's go.
When I say crime, I mean
So let's go. Okay, so as the film alludes to, specifically, I pull a guy over. He's got a Corvette. It's like a 78 Corvette. It's 1980 something and 84 or 5, 83, 84. And he's got no papers. He's got no plates. He's just driving a Corvette around the street. Like unregistered, uninspected, uninsured. So I allude to the story in the movie, like a Puerto Rican mystery, because back then, anybody who was Hispanic in the neighborhoods were basically Puerto Rican people that came over from Puerto Rico, which they have free immigration from Puerto Rico to the United States, and they're considered citizens, which they are. Mm-hmm. And it was just, they were always a mystery because you didn't know what their papers meant, what their cards meant. It was just like, white gringo cops. We didn't know what the fuck they were. They were just people, and they just didn't have anything matched. So this guy had nothing but a piece of paper that said he bought the car from, Tony Hermano last week, and he's driving around in it. And so I go, okay, dude. What do I do here? Voucher the car, spend the whole day vouchering the car, arresting a guy, or giving him summonses. So I go, look, rather than give you these $1,500 or $1,800 worth of summonses, why don't you just get me a lunch? And I mean a lobster lunch. Because it's a huge, I'm letting you off for like $2,000 easy, So the kid goes, he's got a stack of hundreds in his little, back then they had the fanny packs with the belts click on.
Call them bum bags in Australia.
Yeah. Whatever they call them. They held a lot of cash. So anyway, he gets the hint, and I said, just put it underneath the suit. I had a suitcase back there, a briefcase back there with all my paperwork, which I didn't do any paperwork in. So put it under my suitcase, and we'll have a nice lunch on you. He goes, okay. So I don't know what he put, if it was 100 or 150, whatever he put underneath the briefcase. We went away. We split it up, me and my partner, which wasn't Kenny at the time. It was somebody else. And we had and I'm like looking around, waiting to see if someone's going to pull me over. What are you doing? You failed the integrity test. You're under arrest. Nothing happened. So I was like, wow, it's great. I just put $50 from pocket. It was like that easy.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
So at the time,
and now I'm broke as a motherfucker. I got 50. I got 52. I went from $2 to $52 in like a minute. It's great. Like an ATM machine everywhere I turn around.
So at the time, you didn't feel like you're doing something wrong. You felt like you were just getting a little bit extra on the side, kind of.
Well, I knew it was wrong, of course, but I was just justifying it. They don't really want, I don't really need, but I can use it. So I took it, So
you kind of feel like, you know how, like, for example, Lance Armstrong was, obviously, he was...
The doper with the bike.
The doper with the bike, but for him, it was like, you hear him interviewed.
Everybody else was doing it.
Yeah, it was like a level playing field.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a bit like part of the reason was just that you felt like this is what police do? Is that?
Yeah, I sort of figured it out.
Yeah.
It took me a little longer than some, but I figured it out. And to bolster that statement, I've shared the story once, maybe twice. I get pulled over by a couple of cops one day. I can't believe this. In patrol, in a blue and white.
So you're in uniform this time?
I'm working.
Yeah.
I go from one sector, I drive into another sector, I pull a car over. I'm going to give the guy a ticket, maybe not. I don't know what I'm doing yet. We're going to see. I get the guy's license, registration, insurance card. I go back to the car, and the lights are fucking behind me. Guys got their guns out of their side. What are you doing in our sector? Wait, excuse me? Listen, you can't be pulling cars over in our sector. This is our sector. We run this. You shouldn't be in here. I'm like, okay, there's got to be a reason for this. I mean, I heard about this stuff. Now I'm witnessing cops my age on a job like 3 weeks more than me or less telling me that you can't be pulling cops over in my sector. So what they're telling me is we control this, and we make decisions in our sector based on what we determine to be law. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, fuck. I mean, like, can we just finish our paperwork here? Maybe we can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. Don't be in our sector anymore when we're working. Okay. I'm like, these guys, I'm 23, they're 24. I'm like, maybe. I don't even know if they're as old as me. All I know is one's fading hair, one's turning bald already, prematurely. Probably got a small dick. I don't know. And I'm going to end up banging his wife one day. So it's okay. It's all good. Is that okay? Can I say that?
Yeah, well, you've said it. You said it, so.
So anyway, yeah, basically that's what happened. But anyway, so you can't make this shit up. So I'm like, there's got to be a reason for this. And then I put two and two together. Like, these guys are fucking controlling everything in this sector. The restaurants, the fucking cars, the summonses, the tow trucks, the fucking catering hall. Like, oh man, they're making money on this. I know they are. I mean, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
So like, that's what's going on. So not long after that, I start finding money in everybody's pockets in the street. I'm like, okay, this is what the deal is. And crack was out there. Every kid had a gold chain and a kilo under their arm to make crack. And they had $20,000 in each different pocket. They couldn't count the money they had. They had so much
crazy.
money. And these kids are 14, 18, 17, 16. Brand new Jag. How old are you? 17. You got a brand new Jag. Yeah. Okay. And what does your mommy do? She's on welfare. What do you do? I'm a night porter. Okay. And you got a $72,000 car, $18,000 in cash, and a gold chain around your neck that I need to help you walk and carry the goddamn thing. You know? And a gooseneck, back then it had gooseneck equalizers that lit up. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about. That was big time.
Okay. What's a gooseneck equalizer?
I don't know. It was a gooseneck. It's a gooseneck equalizer.
Oh, yeah, of course. The famous gooseneck equalizer.
We'll
put it in the show notes. We'll put a link in the show notes.
If you had a gooseneck equalizer, you were big time. And they had the portables, the cell phone back then, which was like a big... Not
backpack.
Not the block, but the one with the you hung up on this content, looked like the president's phone. You know?
I was born in 86. Jack was born in 94, so we have no idea what this is we're talking about.
I know you don't. So that's what it was. And I'm like, okay, dude, what? Give me a phone. So fucking dope dealer hands me his phone. I go, call my wife. Listen, honey. What are you doing? I'm calling you. She says, how you calling me? I says, I'm calling from some fucking drug dealer's phone right now. So I go, by the way, erase this number when I finish hanging up. I end up being fast friends with the guy. He starts fucking paying me fucking, $1,500 a week. It's ridiculous.
So when did that all happen? When did you become best friends with so in the documentary it becomes you make a connection with La Compañía, the Venezuelans?
Okay, so that's way past.
Well, why don't you tell us? When did it mesh together? When did you become friends with the criminals? When did it become? When did you start working together?
So reality was we're just shaking down people in the street. Okay, that's not like friends. That's just more like you're a target. We got you. We're gonna let you go, but we're taking your money or drugs, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And that one was ongoing for about a year. And then the 7-7 precinct went down in the other side of the city, and then the rumors started to talk about the rest of the precincts that were going to get hit and get arrested.
Matt, you nervous? You nervous at this stage?
Yeah, so everybody starts peeling off. Guys start quitting. They start going to Florida. They go to Carolinas. They go everywhere. They go to the county. They leave the city proper because the heat's on, and the city's like, okay, good, they're leaving. The problem's running away, but I didn't go away because I couldn't get a job anywhere else because they all wanted me to take a lie detector test. Well, I can't pass a lie detector test, so I stick around. You think it's funny, huh? So I stick around, and I just stay fast. And now no one wants to work with me because they feel he didn't leave, but they know he's fucking dirty. So that means he's working for the man. He's working for internal affairs. I'm like, fuck you, I ain't working for internal affairs. And this went on and on and on for about 6 months or a year. And finally I end up hooking up with this guy, Kenny. And Kenny and I start working together, not intentionally. And he's getting upset. I don't want to work with this guy. Don't put him with me. And finally one day I said, dude, it's either you and me, me and you or one of the chicks. Who do you want to work with? You want to work with a chick? Go ahead. They're all internal affairs, half of them. I said, and he says, well, I don't trust you. I said, well, don't trust me. I said, it's up to you. I said, but better you work with me than, some fucking...
Internal affairs.
Twat. Anyway, so... sorry, I don't mean to be so vulgar, but, I get annoyed when I think back. Well, they were setting me up the whole time. They kept setting me up with different women and different internal affairs guys. They kept putting in the car with me. And, of course, I smelt the rat real quick. Mm-hmm. So I end up with Kenny, so the rat that I didn't smell. And we become fast partners, and we make a pact, and it goes forward, and we start making money shortly into the gig, and we come across big loads of cash and drugs and whatnot, and so we become partners, and he starts living his life. His wife starts falling in love with me because of the...
His wife started falling in love with
because not, yes.
Not just love with the money, you mean? Or with the yeah. Gotcha,
now,
gotcha.
Finally, my husband's, treating me with, money.
Yeah, we've got everything we ever wanted.
Right.
So on and so forth.
They have a house. Now Kenny's not, so it's tied. We'll go out to dinner once a month, she says, finally. Things of that nature. Like I brought their life to a different level, and all due respect to him and her, I love them both, and as it turned out, we did well, and then we meet Baron Perez and his wife in the red Corvette, and I'm like, you can't be your wife, you're too fucking ugly. And he's like, it's my wife, I swear. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. And she goes, no, he is my husband. I go, okay, very good. I don't know how that happened, but whatever.
So Baron Perez.
So Baron Perez is the link between the major drug kingpins and Kenny and I.
Yes, that's right. And when you were working with Baron Perez, for example, you were doing what? What were you doing you were getting paid by those guys to do what? To chauffeur them with drug deals, as mentioned in the documentary. Like,
so
what were we actually doing?
That was not the norm. So what we were doing was, as police officers, we had a little bit of privy information as to who was being targeted by the narcotics attacks. Now realize the New York City Police Department is vast. Okay, there's 40,000 members. You know, I maybe know 3,000, and I don't know all the narcotics cops or detectives, and then they don't speak to us. They just do their undercover work, and they make arrests, and then they leave the fucking zone. Yeah, you know, and you're standing there going, "Wow, I knew that guy was hot, but I didn't know how hot." So, so what we ended up trying to do was find out inside information to help Diaz's organization not get busted if it was going to come down. So, and they paid us $8,000 a week. Which was information may have been good, it may not have been good. It was just information that we thought we could possibly provide. So Baron Perez brokered that deal. But prior to that deal, we had a deal with a guy named Cello who ran La Compania up on Fulton and Hale, which was a major nickel-dime organization. If you hear Diaz speak about it in the video.
So what's it? Just to break in, what's $8,000 in today's money? What would you say that would get
times 3.
Yeah, it's about $25,000 a week.
Right.
Yeah. So you're making bank at this stage, really making money.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, my salary was $315 a week, like clear. So
what's your annual salary? What does that mean? Annual salary?
At that time, it was probably about 28,000-ish.
You're making your annual salary weekly, just providing this information. You're thinking.
No, this is 28.
This is taking the piss. I found the loophole here.
Yeah. So I found my quick way to be Trump. Which, as you guys know, I owned several homes, and so I sort of. Back then, he was a charmed guy. Everybody wanted to be just like him, you know. He owned buildings. He was this. He was that. And today, he may be president one day, but whatever. So that's another story for a different show. But so the fact is that we were young, and I got involved in real estate. I started taking my drug money plus my own money and investing in real estate, and buying and flipping homes, and so I had a great cover. When they started to investigate me and say, how's he got all this money? We hear stories. He's got money. He's got brand new cars. He's got extra women. He's got this. He's got that. Well, the guy's got 4 homes and a condo on the ocean in Myrtle Beach because I like to golf.
Yep. And that was also so are you using it as like I'm a regular cop, but I'm a successful real estate
guy on the side.
Investor. I've done this and I made. So you weren't living super lavishly though.
No,
you were just you had the money, you had tons and tons of money, but you're living above your means, but not ridiculously a kingpin.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. Yeah, I mean, well, the reality is I was living way above a cop's means.
Yeah. Red Corvette.
The red Corvette. Lieutenant spot. Yeah.
Is that a mistake, do you think?
No, I did it on purpose. I was done.
Okay.
I was done. I was tired.
You needed an out.
Can you catch me, please? I swear to God.
Really?
I pulled into the lieutenant spot. I said, you need to catch me now or I'm golden.
Yeah.
I don't know how far this is going to go, but right now, if you don't catch me, you guys suck. I swear to God. I mean, I'm like, just take me out of this game. I'm tired.
It would have been heavy on your whole, like, day to day. Once you got so far into it, once you got in with the Diaz guys and La Compania, I mean, in the documentary, there's obviously some really heavy parts. Like, you talk about the Robert Venables thing, which is a murdered cop, and you were there for it, and it had links to, you didn't have anything to do with it yourself, but links to those guys. And like, did it just weigh heavily on you, or was there still... was it still, fuck, this is awesome, can't believe how much money we're making?
No. Yeah, there was a time where I would drive to work, and I tell the story sometimes. I'd be driving to work, and I'd be pulling over to the right-hand side of the road so that if I crashed, it would be on my own. I wouldn't go from the left-hand lane at 90 like most cops go to work at 90 because they got the free badge.
Yeah.
And I would be doing 90 in the right-hand lane because if I do crash, because I would lose I would go numb. I would, what we call stress, whatever it was.
Really? So not drugs, just total stress?
No, drugs. I mean, I was partying too, but it wasn't drug related at the moment. It was just like half of my body would go numb. I was okay, I might be having a heart attack right now.
Fuck.
But let me just get on the side of the road in case I do crash, or I'd start heading towards a exit that had a hospital at it. And then I said, well, I can't check in because they told me they're going to piss test me again, and that might not work out for me. So these are the things that you do, every fucking day.
Yeah.
And I would drive into work, and I'd get there early, and always circle a block and look for cars that may be not associated with the precinct that I was working with at the time. And it was just an ongoing stressful way of living. I mean, telling these stories, you see how fucking worked up I can get.
Yeah.
And then you see it it's wearing on me just telling the stories.
For sure.
But living it was like exhausting.
Oh,
So one day I pull over a fucking ambulance. And my friend's girlfriend is the tech on duty there. And Maria, her name was. What a sweet ass. Anyway. And I know I was fucking her. Anyway, so she's such a sweetheart, too. I said, Maria, something's wrong. I can't breathe. My chest, my this, everything's numb. And she goes, I lay down. I lay down on the fucking gurney in the back of the ambulance. She puts the heart monitor on me, and she's checking my heart, and she takes the EKG out. She goes, I hate to tell you this. She says, but you got a heart of an athlete. So I go, okay, good. She goes, but you must be burning the candle at both ends. She says, and I'm sure you are. Yeah, she's, whatever. She's no dope.
Yeah.
She goes, so you need to just back it up, whatever you're doing. So, okay, thanks. That night I'm doing fucking bumps in the car while I'm driving home. So it didn't fucking... Yeah. So, it was almost like she gave me a free pass. Your heart's fine. Is something going on psychosomatically or stress-wise or whatever? And, yeah, she was right, So, yeah.
So
that's how it was.
When this was all going on, did your family know? Was your wife aware of what was going on?
Of course, my wife was aware that I wasn't doing, straight eights. She knew I was involved in the game. She never condoned it. She never approved of it. She begged me oftentimes, please stop what you're doing.
Right.
We don't need it. We got 4 homes already. We got everything we need. Just stop. But I couldn't stop. It was the adrenaline rush. It was being involved. It was just, it just becomes of your fabric.
Yeah. It's like all the drug dealers that you see that have multiple squillion dollars, but still, and they have hits on them. Like when you watch a Pablo Escobar documentary or something like that,
why didn't
and you always think like, why don't you just get out? Why don't you get out at year 3 when you had 100 million?
Right.
But it's that power thing and that
sucks you in.
Yeah, right.
It takes over you. It's like you did 1 waterfall jump. Now you want to do 3.
Yeah. For sure.
One spin on the roulette table.
Yeah. As we learned last night. All right. So what about where did it all start to go pear-shaped? Where did it all start
pear-shaped.
to
cockeyed?
Well, when did you
cockeyed? Fuck up.
Yeah. When did it start to just really fuck you over?
Oh, I don't know. Probably when I started. I just didn't see it. But no, the reality is that after Kenny retired, he ended up getting involved in drugs, which he was never involved in. Even when we were doing our thing with the Diaz organization and whatnot, Kenny was never really involved in drugs. So he ended up getting a pension that I helped him get, which he'll never admit to, but I did. And so he gets a pension, he's retired, he gets bored, and he missed the lifestyle of all the extra cash that we were bringing in together. Mm-hmm. So he ends up getting involved in narcotics, selling cocaine at bowling alleys and fucking bars in Long Island where we lived. And he calls me up one day and asks me to help him get something because it was around Easter. And around Easter, if you know anything about the Colombian drug business, it dries up because they want to pay homage to the Lord. So they don't sell cocaine around Easter.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So the price usually doubles and it's harder to get. So he makes a call to me. I get him for a couple of pieces and they're on me now. And I say to him, Kenny, I'm being followed like a fucking, a white horse at night. I can't get away from these people. He says, well, it must be you. They've been following you for years. I said, no, this is different. I've been followed for years, but this is not the same people. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't take them long. They couldn't tail me. So they had a judge issue a warrant for my phones and whatnot. And sure enough, I'll see you in 5 minutes. That's enough. That's a drug deal.
Yep.
In lingo, that's a drug deal.
Yeah.
All right, I'm on my way. Boom.
Yep.
You walk in, you walk out, you get back in the car. It's a drug deal. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if you said anything that implicates it, but in America, that's a drug deal.
Yep.
Especially because he's got drugs and they know he does.
Yeah.
So So
It's not hard to piece it together.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take fucking geniuses here. I mean, why are you going to your friend's house for 4 minutes? You just drove 27 miles. You stopped for 4 minutes, and that was 2 minutes talking outside the car. You know? So anyway, they got onto my phones, and then they started to put this whole thing together, and they've tailed me 24/7, and I'm making phone calls saying something's not right. I know they're around me. And I just couldn't pull myself out of it. So I decided to set up a whole new structure, like in the last minute, so that I could always have money coming in. I set it all up, and they just cut right into it and eventually took us down.
Okay. And what was that structure that you set up? This is in the documentary where you set up, you had somebody that was working for you that you'd just palm everything off to? Is this the structure?
Essentially, yes. Yeah. We were financing a drug operation at that point.
Right.
So we just gave them money and collected the money at the end of the day.
Right. And this is you and Kenny,
Kenny,
but Kenny's not your partner at the time. He'd retired, but
correct.
This is when you'd got into this business together.
Correct.
So, all right. So when you watch the documentary, obviously it revolves around you and Kenny. Obviously, and your relationship. That's the whole fabric of the documentary.
Right.
So, how did that feel when, obviously, look, the cops infiltrated? You can tell us about that if you like. But when did you realise that it was Kenny that was the reason that it was all coming down on you?
You know, I realized it ongoingly, but I didn't want to accept it.
Yeah.
So we're out on bail, and I keep asking him, "Are you wearing a wire? Things don't add up." He wants to do this. We end up in this alleged supposed to be a pushing burglary / robbery, taking a woman's drugs and money. It turns into a fucking kidnapping, possible execution. I'm like, why is this happening? Like, this was not the plan.
Yeah.
So he, at that point, was obviously working for the government, and he was, let's say, massaging the story and encouraging things that were not part of the plan to happen. And I'm like, it's like this. Okay, I'll be explicit. You and I would go out on a date. There's 2 girls. One's fat, one's beautiful. You tell me, Mikey, you got to go with the fat girl so I can get the hot one. Mm-hmm. I go, okay. I'm not doing the fat one. Sorry. Mm-hmm. But I tell you okay because I love you. You're my buddy. Mm-hmm. We go to the house. Mikey, they're going to kill her. You know that, right? I go, okay. I say okay. Mm-hmm. Or kidnap her, whatever the fuck they're going to do to her. I have no intentions on doing it, but I'm with you. I'm your buddy. Mm-hmm. Whatever we want to do, whatever you need to do to get there, I'll say yes to. Because I was tired of arguing with them for which you don't hear, 120-minute tape. You hear 14 seconds of.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay? So you don't hear me going, no, there's no need for this. No, there's no need for that. But anyway, so that's one of the disparaging things in the documentary that may be factually accurate, but not like Hillary.
It was portrayed
I had no
the wrong
intent.
way. Yeah.
I had no intent to lie. Mm-hmm. I had no intent to do that. Yep. So I could prove that all day long. I had none. But that doesn't matter when you get a snippet of conversation that says, yeah, we'll throw her in the back of the car and we'll tie her up. I mean, I'm just like, let's get past this discussion and go on to the next. Mm-hmm. And then when we show up at the house, on the way to the house, I realize, wait a minute, he's doing me. And I just take off and head home. And that's when we find Dory in the house. She's naked. Hold on. The whole bullshit that takes place at the house. I mean, so it's coming together. And then I end up going home, and I go back to his lawyer's office. I confront him in his lawyer's office. People don't know that in the film.
Yeah.
I confront him in his lawyer's office.
So when it all, you talk about the cops being, when you're a partner, you're more than brothers. How did that feel for you, knowing that you'd been betrayed? I mean, you also mentioned earlier there's a quote, I think, from you early in the documentary. I had it written down here somewhere. Just never give up on another cop. That's what makes a good cop. That's you never be a rat. Right. You know, and you even mentioned it earlier, just when we were speaking before. I mean, I don't want to bring up old wounds, but I mean, that's the question I want to know. How did it feel when you had someone who was probably like a brother to you? I mean, what went through your mind?
There's no old wounds anymore. They've all healed. You know, I mean, I just try to be logical about it. I mean, at the time, you know, I felt betrayal. I was like, you know, it's like you put your head in your hands and you go, what's wrong with me? You know, It's like when someone finds out that their spouse or significant other in their life is cheating on them. They're like, I was getting warning signs for weeks and months and years even. And, you know, finally, you know, now you have it on film. You know, which happened to me too. But anyway, that's another story. That's another story for a different documentary. but anyway, that's went alone here. Anyway,
we don't need to go there. It's not a 6-hour interview today, Mike.
But anyway, so it's the realization that you've known this, you've felt this, and then when you feel like an idiot. Like, people are telling you too. You sure he's not? You sure he's not? Because we think he is. No, and I'm protecting him against other people, just like you might protect someone you love against somebody else, but meanwhile they're right the whole time.
You're just blinded by your love for him.
Blinded by your care and love and concern for him. And the desire to have a companion to do the things with that you want to do, i.e. leave the country. I don't want to do a 25-year bid in the state. I don't want to do that kind of sentence. Who does? I mean, if anybody had a chance to just be on the lam rather than do a 25-year sentence, they'd take the lam, you know? So that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to do the lam, and he's going with me.
So this is the plan. You're gonna where are you gonna head? Where are we off to? Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Whoa, Nicaragua
is there, right?
Smoking. No, not with Adventure Fit, but I've been there myself. San Juan del Sur. Have you been to San Juan del Sur?
I've been nowhere. I'm gonna go run a shrimp boat.
Yeah. Okay. So this is. So you haven't even made it there.
I'm going.
Still plenty of time to go on the land.
I was offered a job by the owner of a big catering hall in Queens, in Long Island, in New York, whatever. The Astoria Manor at the time.
That's right. So this is in the documentary. I do remember this now. So your plan was...
that's not in the documentary. That's in a conversation with Joe Rogan.
Yes, that's right, which I've listened to. Yeah. So your plan was, because I was going to say, do you think it was like, now that you're older and you can look back on it and stuff, and you're obviously moved on from that, do you think it was like a good thing that you got busted? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're thankful for it?
In some ways, yeah. I'm thankful. It rescued me.
Yeah.
It rescued me from myself, you know.
Sure, you could be dead.
I was spiraling. Spiraling out of... It's like you're watching the tub's filled with water and there's a fucking fly or something, and you're waiting for that fly to get sucked into the drain. You know, it just takes a while. As all the water goes around and around, I was getting sucked right in the drain.
You're that fly.
I was the fly. Moth. Turd.
Good analogy.
The turd.
Yeah, you were the turd. You were the turd of the fly. It's just getting sucked down the drain.
The fly on the turd. I know. Both.
Yeah, okay, so... Right, so well, how much longer have we got you for? We've probably gone through a good part now. So now that let's talk about, what was your time in prison like?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of fun, you know.
But how does a cop get treated in prison?
With royalty, like royalty.
No, but I mean, you weren't just a cop that locked everyone up and was a straight one out cop.
It doesn't matter. They don't want a cop in prison. They don't want to be around you. They don't want to associate with you. So basically, you do your time for the most part by yourself.
Right. You're putting with other cops and stuff. You have time to kind of interact with other people.
Well, they certainly wouldn't want to do that because that would indicate that then he's a cop.
Right. So you hid the fact that you're a cop when you're in prison?
You don't let anybody know. If
really?
That's what you mean by heed. Yes.
Oh, hid. H-I-D.
Hid.
I like to hide it.
You're supposed to hide it, but everybody knew who I was because of my nature of my case. New York City cop, the dirtiest, every newspaper for 2 years. Yep. So everywhere I went, it was known. In fact, I had a lieutenant. I was down 9 years. I was transferred to another location, and a lieutenant says to me, just be quiet about who you are, and you'll just do fine here. I said, Lieutenant, by 11:30 at Main Line, which is where they serve chow, everybody's going to know. He goes, well, not if you don't say anything. I said, don't bet on it. I took my bedroll at 9:15, walked over to my unit, said hello to the officer, signed in. He says, you're in cell 105 or something like that. I go, great. 5 minutes later, the phone rings. He calls me, Dowd, I need to speak to you. What's that? I walk back to him. I go, what's up? I just got here. What the fuck? He goes, Lieutenant said you're wrong. It's 10 o'clock, and he says he's had 6 phone calls from inmates because they all work for the fucking man in there.
Right.
From inmates saying there's a cop on the compound from New York City. I said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
I'm 30 minutes off.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah.
My clock's fast.
Yeah.
So, was that like? Was it hard, like living as a cop? That was everybody knew you were a cop. Was it heavy? Was it people that were
every
threatening?
day you didn't know if you were going to get stabbed or kissed.
Really?
Yeah, it was that fucking intense.
Fuck.
Every fucking person knew who you were, and you had no idea what their intentions were. So you lived for 12 and plus years, wondering if this guy next to you is going to stab you, punch you, kick you, spit on you, or
probably not
say
anything
hi,
positive.
Or say hi.
Probably not much positive.
Yeah, you can't expect positive.
That's right.
You know, you could only hope for positive, but your expectation was this is a potential threat.
Yep.
So I never tried to let anybody get behind me where I couldn't see them, you know, but just basically, you know, and you're around 1,800 men, you know.
That's a long 12 years. How are you so mentally sane still?
I don't know that I am. Thanks for the compliment, I guess. You know, it is, you become inured, you get hardened, and you lose part of your heart.
Really?
You know, even though I'm a heartfelt guy, as you guys could probably tell, but you lose part of your heart, and like you save something to be able to, and this sounds horrific, to be able to kill.
Right. So, because you have to know that I could have to defend myself,
have to kill
and
someone
I have
right
to kill
now. Right.
Fucking hell.
How did you keep
tough.
it together in there, though?
Huh?
How did you keep it together in there? Read books or stay sane?
I probably read 2 books a week for, I don't know, I didn't do the weeks, 146 months, so 144 months, so times 4, right? 5, whatever. And I ran the drug and alcohol program, and and
as he raises his Bloody Mary to the...
Oh, come on now. That's some tomato juice. Clamato.
Clamato, yeah.
So,
we came with the good stuff.
Yes. And, so I read a lot. I worked out a lot. I was a fucking beast. I probably one of the physically best specimen white guys in prison at the time, wherever I was.
On the juice in there? Everyone gets on the juice in prison, don't
they? No. There was times when they did, but I never touched it, you know. You have to be plugged in, and I didn't. Why would I need it for? I was fucking 17.5-inch arms, and 44-inch chest, and 31-inch waist. Not bad.
Yeah,
you know? So
that's good.
What it is you present yourself well.
I'll be happy with that.
I can show you pictures if you don't fucking believe me. I don't have it anymore. I don't have it anymore.
I believe you don't.
Listen, I'm 55. I was like, so I met a guy when I just came to this prison in Marianna, Florida, and I met a guy. He looked jacked. He looked good. I looked at him. I said, so how do I do that? And I was in good shape. He goes, just work hard. I said, all right. 2 years later, boom, I had it. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And he was 38, and I was younger. I was like 34 or something. I said, by 38, I want to look like this guy. And at 36, I was like, I said, I was there. But so then I did a maintenance program for the next 10 years. 10 fucking years. Whatever, 8.5, whatever the fuck it was.
That's so you didn't have any like...
22-minute workouts.
22-minute workout.
Yeah.
Well, we're a fitness kind of podcast.
Yeah.
But what did you go through? What was your workout?
Pull-ups. I did 16 sets of pull-ups, all different angles, and wide grip, narrow grip, front, back. I do 16 sets of them, and then I do some squats for my spindle legs because I got bad knees. So I do 10 sets of squats, 10, 15, whatever I can do in a rep, and then I would do dips. I would do 2 different types of dips. I would do front dips in the what do you call in the cage, whatever that thing, the wrap, the U in the U. I do front dips,
just bar dips, bar dips,
and then I do back arm. I would just hold on to a set of bars like the cage and basically in the prison. And
so you do this in 22 minutes?
Yeah. 22-minute workout.
Fast.
No, I don't stop. I know no rest between sets, and then I would do leg lifts and I would do leg drops for my abs. And 22 minutes, it's done.
Because that's how you kind of go on.
Every day? Yeah?
5 days a week.
Yeah.
I would take 2 days off just to recoup a little bit. But because I was now doing calisthenics, I didn't rip and tear my muscles like I had prior. I was single arm curling 90 pounds. On that, what was the preacher?
Yeah,
I was
preacher
doing 90 pound. You can see I almost have it still. I was doing 90 pound. I was doing 90 pound preachers.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fucking weight.
So when you got like nothing else to do, you just read and train. I wouldn't mind being in jail, I reckon.
Yeah. It's like a country club.
Yeah, they're 2 of my favourite things. I just like the fresh air.
Yeah, well, when you're surrounded by a fence, the air seems a little more stifling.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you did 12 years in prison, and then now, why don't you tell us, like, what do you do now? You work with the... You're still working with the...
So now I do some consulting. I'm involved with the Sony project to do the movie adaptation of the 7/5 documentary.
Yep.
I do speaking engagements at universities. I'm involved in a cigar product with Diaz from the Dominican Republic.
Diaz, for the listeners, is the Colombian connection with the cocaine that
Dominican.
But he was connected with Pablo Escobar.
Yes, but he's Dominican.
He's Dominican, but he was connected with the Colombian guys.
Yes.
Mike's gifted us with a 7.5 cigar to take home, which we're pretty stoked with.
It just smokes well. I hear it smokes well. So I'm doing that, and I got a little T-shirt thing going that represents the 7.5 movie, and I'm building my brand. I'm developing a brand. I will be doing. I'll be out in Minnesota. I'll be speaking before a whole correctional department out there in the fall. So it's an ongoing process. I'm involved in a couple of projects to do adaptations, but like for TV series and stuff like that. So it's involved. I'm very active at the Mike Dowd on Twitter and on Instagram. Yeah. You can follow me there.
We'll go through all that at the end. We can do all the plugs. I need to ask this before. We're going to wrap up with a few questions. 3 from me, 3 from Jack, and then we'll get you. You can do some plugs and stuff.
I'm fading, guys.
But I do need to ask you this. So you're a very personable guy. Very, very happy. Seem very happy. Very engaging. You seem like a great guy. You love telling the stories about what you went through in the past. In the documentary and on the Rogan podcast, for certain points, it doesn't seem like you have much remorse.
Right.
But I'm not saying that's the case.
Right.
How do you actually, if you look back on everything that's gone on in your life, how do you feel about it?
So the remorse question comes up to me quite often. And my response to that, logically, in my brain is, you want me to tell a story, you want me to cry. So you want me to tell a story to let you know what it was like. I have to put you in the car with me and make you feel the intensity and the excitement at which we did what we did. We weren't shaking down drug dealers because we were so sad. We were shaking down drug dealers so we can walk home with, $2, $3, $5, $50,000 at a clip, whatever we can get. So that's an exciting story to share. So the remorse part is, what I did was wrong. I accept what I did was wrong. I served a 14-year prison sentence. I lost my family, my wife and my children, and I'm now putting my life back together. So do I need to cry and say, I'm so sorry every time I tell a story? I hope not, because then you'll never hear the stories. Yeah.
And you're a positive guy, I suppose.
I try to put a positive spin on everything. I mean, I did my time in prison with a positive spin. I mean, I just try to keep it real. If for people to come in here or anybody to be interviewed about what they did and have nothing but remorse in their voice and in their tone, that guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
There was an excitement to do what we did.
Yeah.
So I let people feel it, and then I get accused of not being remorseful. So I apologize if they don't like it, but
no,
just keep it real.
it's just I think it's partly because you're a very good storyteller, and that's why the documentary's so good. That's why. I forgive you for not having the number one Rogan podcast that I listen to, but I said to everyone, I'm really, really stoked.
Well, why don't I? Why do you think I don't?
Because you can't tell me about the 12,000 year ago global cataclysm that wiped out. It's
a reason.
Yeah. Randall Carlson's my favorite Rogan podcast.
And I can't talk MMA.
And
he's MMA. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I would have it otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. You're close, but it's my second favorite Rogan podcast of all time. So I think it's because. I mean, the remorse thing looks a little bit because you're such a good storyteller. That's why it's my second favorite Rogan podcast. That's why the documentary's so popular.
Compelling.
Yeah, compelling. It makes for a good story. So, but I wanted to ask that question.
Right, got it. Not a problem. I'm used to it.
Yeah. Jack, do you want to hit your 3 questions for Mike?
Yeah, for sure. Firstly, I just wanted to give this one for the listeners because it's a bit of an awkward question. But what type of music do you listen to? What gets you up and going?
I listen to top popular, top 40, and I enjoy country music as well. Yeah. So I like some of the throwbacks to the 90s when I was in prison, because a lot of my feelings and emotions come out when I hear songs from back in the days in the 90s when I was out in these cow dunk towns that wouldn't be like New York City area, and I was out in the country, and so I learned a lot of country music, and I like country and I enjoy top 40. So whatever's popular,
whatever's going. Sweet.
Like right now, Superman. Superman's got nothing on me. I can get crazy with that one.
Alrighty, sweet.
I'm going to save the day. Go ahead. I know I sound horrible.
Sweet. Second question. As a youngster, what were your hobbies / sports or
I
any
was a hockey
recreations?
player. I was a golfer. I played every other sport, baseball. My passion really is baseball, but I just was never good enough at it.
Yeah.
But I was a very good hockey player. Played a little college, and not much. I banged my knee up and went to the police department.
Yeah.
So, same week. And but yeah, so I was athletic all my life. Yeah.
Athlete's heart, as you said earlier.
Say it again.
Athlete's heart, as you said
I
earlier.
don't hear him through the mic. I hope that's.
Oh, no, it's cool. It's all coming up here. It just must be it. Sometimes our mics don't carry through the whole way, but we got all the levels are pumped along. So.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. Last question. If you didn't take the path that you took earlier on in your life, where do you see yourself?
Well, if I hadn't done that, I would have been retired with a home in Florida and a nice pension and probably a second career, and probably would have done probably bigger things in my second career had I had the safety net of a civil servant pension, which is pretty handsome if you can make it to the end,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Good question.
And my 3 questions. Are you a well-travelled man, Mike?
Lately I have been. When I was a young guy and I had all that money, I did a little like the Bahamas and Bermuda and things of that nature, Vegas as well.
Yep. Cool.
But, yeah.
All right. So
lately I've been doing a lot of travel though.
Yep.
Associated with this, I was in Scotland and
really?
Edinburgh for the film festival for
cool.
release of the 7.5 over there.
Sick.
Yeah, and then Miami, California, Vegas, New York. I've been around quite a bit lately.
So my question is, what's your favourite travel destination? Can be a small town, can be a country, can be a region.
Okay, so I enjoy Cancun.
Yep.
Okay. Dominican Republic, I have fun there because Adam's there, the guy from the film. But the reality is, I love the Miami area. I think I'm going to settle in that area somewhere.
Cool.
But if I could afford to, I'd love to spend my summers at the east end of Long Island in the Hamptons.
Okay.
If I could afford to.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So next question is a similar theme.
I do a lot of Maine. I do a lot of Mount Desert Island, Bar Harbor.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like I've probably been there 6 times in the last 8 years.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nice. So what's your dream destination? So same thing, can be anywhere, little town, can be a country, can be a continent, whatever.
I'd love to go to Australia.
Oh, you're always welcome. South Melbourne. I live in South Melbourne. I've got a
I'd love to experience it.
Nice little single bed for
I'd
you
love to
anytime.
experience it. Not with you in it.
No, I'm
not going back to
I'm
those.
not offering that, Mike. I'm sorry.
I would love to experience a place like Australia that I haven't been. But really, I find South Central America pretty intriguing because of the forestation and the warmth.
My favourite part of the world by a mile.
It's very interesting.
The natural wonders
The natural
is
wonders,
what
yeah.
does it for me. There's
and I don't
glaciers.
I don't have no idea why there's poverty in those nations. They should be the richest nations in the world. They have every mineral and food product, and I guess there's a lot of corrupt guys like me there. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what to say. It's just
neither. It's the most
with every
beautiful
natural thing you could ever want.
It's the most beautiful part of the world you'll ever see.
I was in the DR, and you drove through the DR. I'm saying this for a reason. You drive through the DR.
Dominican Republic.
Yes, the Dominican Republic, and it's so fucking beautiful. Like, you climb up this mountain. It's almost got snow on it. It's so it's 15 or 20 degrees cooler on the top of this mountain.
Yep.
I'm like, this is paradise. I mean, what's going on in this nation? But anyway, I don't want to straighten out their politics. I'm just amused by how picturesque it is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You guys have never been there.
No.
Oh.
If it's anything like the rest of Central and South America, I could imagine it's stunning.
It's stunning.
Yeah.
But anyway, a plug for them. But, the reality is, there's still no place like America in the world.
Yeah. Beautiful. I like it. We do have so one more. If you're on a desert island and you got 3 things to keep you sane, what are they? This is a tough one. Normally stumps people. Could you say that again?
It's all the same. It's all the same. It's all the same. That's all I care about. That and water.
1, 2, and 3.
And 1, 2, and water.
Okay. Two girls and a bottle of water.
One good girl and a lot of water.
Okay. Yeah, sweet.
That's how I live my life. Just live an asshole. But I'm a good asshole.
A happy asshole.
I try to be.
Oh, cool. Well, it's Really good to have told your story, Mike. So before we check out, where can people find anything about the documentary? Where can they find you? We have listeners from Australia, and we'll put the links everywhere in our show notes. But we're all over the world as well. So
so I don't know all the links, but I do know that right now in America it's running on TMC, the movie channel, like today and tomorrow.
So the movie is The 7-5.
The movie is called The 7-5, spelt out, because a lot of people get lost and they put the 7-5 in, and it doesn't necessarily come up.
SEVENFI.
Right, spell it out. And around the world, in many places, it's on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And if it's not local, you call your cable provider and see if they can get it plugged into your local HBOs or Showtimes. I don't know.
You get it on a lot of iTunes as well. When I was looking it up, iTunes around the world.
You can get it on iTunes. But the reality is, themikeDowd.com is my website where you can see what I'm actually promoting at the time, whether it's a cigar or it's T-shirts or my involvement in upcoming films that I'm trying to put together. My speaking engagements, if you want to book me for a speaking engagement, themikeDowd.com. Mm-hmm. The cigars, we go to cigars75.com. That's cigars75.com. And, I'm just always trying to make a living now, out of being Michael Dowd, because it's hard to get a job. I lost my goddamn job through this documentary. So, no one needs to feel bad for me, but it is what it is, So,
cool.
So, themikeDowd.com or themikeDowd on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me. I do Facebook, but I'm not that good at it because I end up sending wrong messages to people and I get in trouble. But Michael Dowd from Long Island, Suffolk County Community College is one of the things they search me under, or Brentwood. It was the town I'm from.
Okay.
And but that's I have plenty. A lot of that.
Yeah, that's plenty. www.themikeDowd.com.
Right.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Mike.
It's been great.
That's a wrap.
I'm happy you guys had me. Nice to meet you all.
Cool. Beautiful. Alrighty, guys. That was our interview with Mike. Pretty wild one. Hope you got some entertainment out of it. It was pretty thought-provoking, pretty amazing to hear a story of a guy that's been through so much like Mike. If you did like the show, make sure you go to iTunes and subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. That'll get us more downloads, which will get us more sponsors, which will be get us closer to getting bigger and better, and not better, but bigger name guests, and we can provide video content and more cool stuff for you guys. So hit subscribe for us. Also, anything that was of note in that show will be found in the show notes at www.adventurefittravel.com/podcast. In there, you'll find any links to anything that was mentioned and anything to help you kind of piece together what was spoken about in the show. Also, if you can, join the mailing list while you're on our site. And don't forget to check out Audible, audibletrial.com/ADVF radio, and Adventure Fit Travel. Check out our Everest trip and everything else we got going on at www.adventurefittravel.com. And that's it.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.